Imagine standing in a room, surrounded by those you consider family. The very person who vowed to love and protect you chooses instead to tear you down, laughing as they point fingers and leave you utterly humiliated. But here's the unexpected turn. Unbeknownst to him, his own daughter was about to unleash a revenge so profound it would drop every jaw in the room. It started on what was supposed to be an ordinary Sunday dinner, the kind of evening where families laugh, share food, and feel safe. But for me, it was the night my husband turned me into a punchline. I remember walking into his parents' living room, carrying a tray of homemade lasagna I'd spent hours preparing. The smell of garlic and herbs followed me in, and for a brief moment I felt proud. His mother gave me a polite nod. His siblings barely looked up from their drinks, and then came my husband smirking. "Well, here comes the chef," he said loudly, clapping his hands. So everyone turned to stare. "Careful, guys. Don't eat too much, or you might end up with food poisoning." "She's not exactly Gordon Ramsay." Laughter erupted. I froze. Tray still in my hands. My cheeks burned as if someone had pressed hot irons against them. I forced a smile, setting the tray down, but inside I was crumbling. That wasn't just a joke, that was humiliation. And it didn't stop there. As the night went on, my husband treated me like his personal comedy show. Every story, every dig was at my expense. "She takes forever to get ready." Honestly, sometimes I think she stares at the mirror just to see if it cracks. "Don't let her drive you anywhere. She could get lost in her own neighborhood." Each comment stung like a slap. And what hurt the most wasn't just the words, it was the way his family laughed along, nodding, adding their own jabs, and me. I sat there smiling politely, gripping my wine glass so tightly I thought it might shatter in my hand. Inside my head, the thoughts were screaming, "Why are you doing this to me? Aren't I supposed to be your partner, not your punching bag?" But I stayed quiet because that's what I'd always done, at least until that night. I thought I was the only one noticing that maybe this humiliation would pass, like all the others. But then I looked across the table. My daughter, 15 years old, quiet, thoughtful, was staring at me. Her eyes weren't just sad. They were angry. I could see her jaw tighten, the way her fingers curled into fists under the table. At that moment, I understood he wasn't just hurting me. He was teaching her that this was what marriage entailed, that this was how women were treated. She, however, wasn't accepting it. Dinner concluded, and as was their custom, his family gathered in the living room. With drinks in hand, stories circulated, and laughter resonated. My husband thrived in this environment, the center of attention, the master of mockery. "Hey, honey," he called out. "Tell them about the time you burned spaghetti." Yes, spaghetti. She can't even boil water, right? That's when my daughter stood up. Her voice was calm, but sharp enough to cut through the chatter. "Actually, Dad, I think there's a funnier story." Everyone turned. She looked him dead in the eye and said, "Remember last week when you cried in the garage? Because Grandma called you lazy. You begged me not to tell Mom, but since we're all sharing jokes tonight, maybe they should hear that one too." Silence. The kind of silence that's louder than any scream. Faces shifted from laughter to shock. His siblings exchanged glances. His mother's smile evaporated, and my husband, his face turned crimson. He stammered, tried to laugh it off, but the damage was done for the first time. The room wasn't laughing with him. They were looking at him, and not with admiration, with disappointment. He tried to recover. He muttered something about teenagers being dramatic, but my daughter wasn't done. "Oh, should I also tell them about the time you asked Mom for money because you blew your paycheck on beer with your buddies? Or the time you told Uncle Mark you were the man of the house? Well, Mom paid the bills." Each sentence was another dagger, and with every word I could feel the years of humiliation lifting off my shoulders. My daughter was doing what I had never dared to do, exposing him, and in front of the very people he wanted to impress. By the time she finished, he wasn't the funny guy anymore. He was the fool. Dinner ended quickly after that. His family awkwardly said their goodbyes, avoiding his gaze. When the door closed, he turned to my daughter, furious. "How dare you embarrass me like that? And she shot back with words that still echo in my mind. How dare you embarrass mom like that? Maybe if you respected her, I wouldn't have to clean up your mess. He was stunned into silence. And for once, I didn't defend him. I didn't make excuses. I just stood there, looking at my daughter. This fierce young woman who had more courage in one night than I'd had in 15 years. And for the first time in so long, I felt free. The next family dinner. My husband was quiet. No jokes, no smirks. His siblings kept their distance. His mother's tone towards me was suddenly respectful, because the truth was out. His mask had slipped, and it wasn't me they were laughing at anymore. It was him. Revenge isn't always about elaborate schemes or carefully set traps. Sometimes it's about a single voice refusing to be silenced. For me, that voice was my daughter. The one person he assumed would passively stay in the background ended up exposing his true nature to everyone. If this resonated with you, hit that like button and share in the comments. Has anyone ever stood up for you when you couldn't do it yourself? And remember to subscribe. I have many more stories of karma, justice, and revenge that you won't want to miss.